Time again for Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. You can hear the program every Thursday morning at 7:23. Also, Saturday morning at 7:50 here on KNSI. Remember to start that home search at VoigtJohnson.com. Brandon Johnson in studio with us. Great to see you again, sir.
Good morning, Bob.
You know, one of the things I really like is when you guys bring in these questions that people have asked you. Yeah. For example, can I just read this one?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go. We submitted an offer on a home and we're negotiating the terms. And our understanding was we agreed on the price. We just needed to initial the new price. The next day, our agent told us the seller received another offer and asked us to submit our, quote, highest and best offer. We thought we had the deal. How could this happen? We ended up still getting the home, but paid thousands of dollars more than we originally agreed to.
Yeah, that's a scenario that isn't always fun when you're going through it.
Yeah.
What I can envision happen there is, like the question states, we're verbally negotiating the offer,
Right.
verbally came to terms,
Right.
but hadn't executed it on paper yet, which is what it needs to be legally binding, right?
Okay.
And so then another offer comes in, which that listing agent is obligated to present,
Right.
and the seller at that point holds all the cards. They can still honor that verbally agreed upon agreement,
Yeah.
or they have not signed or executed a contract, so it's still technically available. They can do what it sounds like was done and say, bring us your highest and best. Now we're in a multiple offer situation, right? And basically everything that's happened up until that point goes out the window and you're now competing.
Okay, this is the weirdest thing, right? Because a year and a half ago, interest rates were super low.
Sure.
Competitive offers were the rule, not the exception. They were the rule, right? I can't imagine what it must have been like for you guys to have to deal with all of that stuff.
Well, let me just back up. Even this weekend I sold a house that was over list price.
Well, this is exactly where I was going. It hasn't stopped.
From a valuation standpoint, values are still holding strong.
Yeah.
We talked about this before, is from a monthly payment standpoint, buyers are paying 30 to 40% more than they were 18 months ago.
Right.
But values have not suffered at all. In fact, they've even gone up, 4 to 5% over the last 24 months.
Well, if you're living in an apartment complex, have rents gone down? I think not.
Absolutely. So it's all relative. But to that point so what I tell my buyers is it's looking promising. We have a verbally accepted offer, but until it's executed, signed, and in that case, initialed by all parties on that price change,
Right.
It's not official. So what that means is time is of the essence to a great degree to get that fully executed, to avoid that situation. And how it's really relevant is when you're not to that specific situation, but if you're negotiating an offer, and let's say you're $3,000 apart, and I have the buyer, I'm working with the buyer, I'll say, I think we might be able to get them down a little bit, but there's pros and cons. This could take another day to try and do that,
Sure.
And now this scenario ends up happening. So it's always trying to say risk reward on every decision you do encountering.
All right, so let me just throw this out. I'm going to use the number you use, $3,000.
Yes.
Over 30 years. Come on. $3,000 over 30 years. Do the math on that one. But people are that way. I know I have been that way. Ooh, that's $200. I don't know if I want to buy that. That's $1,000 more. I don't know if I should do that. And then if you just stop to think about the time thing that you're talking about, it's a drop in the bucket.
You're right, and I think you've hit on the underlying issue. Is it's not about the $3,000 house. What I'll rephrase that is this the house? How bad do you want the house? If you're really to go back about $3,000, this might not be the house that you're dying for. If this is your forever house, then absolutely. Or another, and I'm all about giving options. So let's say we counter $3,000 lower, and it's been 6, 8, 12 hours. We can always go back and say, hey, is that offer? We'll still take that offer. So it's always about, my job is to always be giving options, but to always be pointing out the risk reward of our decision.
Would it be a dumb thing, and I'm sorry if I'm asking the wrong question here, but would it be a bad idea if I go to the house, I'm there with my realtor, and okay, we have a verbal agreement. Would you mind, can we just write this down, the fact that you're willing to sell me this house at this agreed upon price? I'll initial it, you initial it, we both date it and that kind of thing. Or does that never happen?
With electronic signatures now, we have the ability to do it right from our phone.
Okay.
So even if all the parties are right there,
Yeah.
it's very likely that we're still going to do it electronically too. But time is of the essence in executing. If we have a meeting of the minds,
Oh, I get that part.
and you're okay, what's there to wait? And so what I'll tell people, even before negotiating an offer, is, okay, we went and looked at a home. They feel this is the one. It's just come on the market. And what I'll say is, I'm not trying to rush you or pressure you, but if you've come to the decision that you want to make an offer on this home, there's no sense waiting.
Right.
And I'm not trying to say, like I said, to pressure you, but if you've come to the realization, because what'll happen, what I've seen happen, is people say we want to make an offer on this home, and they'll take 3 days to think about
you can't do that.
the price they want to offer, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I'll try and put some urgency in. Of time is of the essence.
Okay, how do you do that with a buyer, right, that wants to take their sweet time? What do you say? I mean, I would think that they need to have their act together on the way in that door. You better be ready to make the offer. You also better be ready to make a counter offer, another $5,000. Is there a formula at all?
Yeah, and I think this is how we're a little different too. Our job, or my job, is to explain the current market dynamics.
Right.
Sometimes there's urgency, sometimes there's not. My job is to also listen to the buyer's family, what their comfort level is. So if your comfort level is not moving fast, that's not my job to push you. My job is to say, there's an urgency here to do this, but if you don't feel comfortable, that's totally fine too.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, how we're a little bit different, is we're not going to push you out of your comfort level to act in a faster manner that you feel comfortable with. Because at the end of the day, you get a great house, great value, you love the house, but if you don't feel good about how it went down, if you feel uneasy, rushed, anxiety, it doesn't matter, right?
And my counter to that would be 3.5% is a heck of a lot better than 8, isn't it? Make your decision. Be ready at least to make that decision when you walk through the door.
And what ends up happening is, a lot of times buyers, sometimes you have to lose out on a home. You have to see, you have to experience it for yourself.
Learn.
Yeah, just like all of us, we have to.
For sure.
It's a different dynamic when you come to terms on your own decisions versus someone telling you, and different people have different thresholds of coming to those realizations.
You know what I like is the fact that you guys say, here's why. It just makes perfect sense. You explain things. All right, taking you home, VoigtJohnson Real Estate, Thursday morning at 7:23, Saturday at 7:50 in the morning here on KNSI. And we say this all the time, start your home search at VoigtJohnson.com. Brandon, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI.